Thank you very much for coming to this press conference. It's been organized by Frack for Yukon Alliance. With me, I have Peter Becker and Jackie Vigneault and myself, Jean-François Delarrier. We are spokespersons today on behalf of the Frack for Alliance, Frack for Yukon Alliance. It's 21st of January, 2015. Frack for Yukon Alliance is a group of citizens committed to the protection of healthy and prosperous Yukon, free from the threat of hazardous industrial practices. Yukon is famous worldwide for the quality of its environment, the purity of the air, water, and virtually unspoiled wilderness. People come from around the globe to experience its unique beauty, and many, having fallen under the spell of the Yukon, choose to stay and spend their lives here. The image that springs to mind when one thinks of Yukon is not one of smokestacks and glass flares. Our virtually untouched wilderness is our most precious asset, our jewel, preserved for future generations and offered to the world as a safe haven. This condition will do more for our long-term economic prosperity and the short-term, quick-buck, resource extraction, boom and bust economy. Because once the land has been fracked, you can't unfrack it. Frack for Yukon Alliance holds that the tenor of the Select Committee's report is focused on building a case for the eventual authorization of fracking against the wishes of the individuals and groups of citizens who overwhelmingly, categorically, and unequivocally communicated to the committee that they wanted a complete ban of the practice of fracking in the Yukon. Our sister organization, Yukoners Concerned About Oil and Gas Exploration and Development, has been circulating a petition to that effect throughout Yukon over the past few months and has gathered over 8,000 signatures. Case in point, the report grossly misrepresents the input from Yukoners concerned about oil and gas exploration and development. The Yukoners Concerned presentation highlighted independent science rather than testimony presented to the Frack Committee as the report claims. Further, YC noted the impossibility of regulating fracking in other jurisdictions, which the report has distorted to mere difficulties. Throughout the report, hard evidence was watered down in the summaries and recommendations following the example of the mentioned Council of Canadian Academy's report. These errors cast serious doubt on the quality of the report. The Select Committee insists that more study needs to be conducted. Frack for Yukon Alliance has compiled and reviewed extensive research into the effects and impacts of fracking around the world. This still growing body of research has overwhelmingly concluded that the practice cannot be done safely. World-class science from veteran fracture engineer Dr. Ingreffi, the New Solutions Special Issue peer-reviewed papers on health impacts in the Energy Policy Forum have been shared and were ignored by the Select Committee. We don't need more research. The verdict is in already. It is more than a matter of inevitable casing and equipment failures as the matter of course pathway chaos from shattering large geologies is the accident. Dozens of other jurisdictions have conducted research much broader than anything Yukon could afford to do, and many have enacted a complete ban on the practice. France, Germany, Quebec, California, Texas, Hawaii are just some of the big players who have chosen to ban fracking on their territory. On another note, the Select Committee recommends that the government should respect First Nations final agreements and its ongoing obligations towards non-settled First Nations. In other words, that the government of Yukon follow the law. This also makes us wonder at which point of their discussions was there a suggestion that the government of Yukon could ignore the law. Given recent examples, the Peel Appeal, Bill 6, for example, this recommendation goes nowhere to reassure Yukoners that the government of Yukon will keep its word in any way at all. Overall, the Select Committee has missed the big picture and the devil in the detail. It is time for the world and Yukon to start moving away from its dependency on hydrocarbons and move actively to pursue other sources of energy. Solar, wind, geothermal, hydrogen, and not invest more money, time, and energy into squeezing the last drops of fossil fuels out of the ground. In accordance with the above, Frack Free Yukon Alliance also recommends the suspension of ongoing operations of Northern Cross in northern Yukon and Kootenay in southeastern Yukon. We thank you for attending, and we'll now take questions.
I guess just as a little back, what separates you, this organization from Yukoners concerned? What separates?
There's nothing.
It's different contributions. It's different contributions that we provide to this. We are a partner organizations.
We all want a ban on fracking. Just as an example, in Quebec, they did 67 groups within a few months because they wanted to frack between Quebec and Montreal. So it is apporting more to the community to have more groups.
So I gather that what you're saying is all the evidence is in. We don't need to take any more time. It's just the committee had all it needed to make a decision on this.
Yes.
And the decision clearly points to it should be banned.
It should have been.
That's your position on this
Yes.
whole deal. That's
Yes.
what you're saying.
Yep,
Yes.
clearly and unequivocally.
I mean, if a crime has been committed, there might be the evidence and the witnesses there to process that in court, and future time might find more evidence that corroborates existing evidence that is already sufficient.
What you're saying, well, once a crime is committed and the person goes to jail, there might be more evidence to keep you in jail longer, but he still goes to jail.
If that evidence corroborates, so far there is no contradicting evidence turning up. The growing body of research, of independent quality research, appears to very much corroborate the existing body of evidence. And we have presented, as Yukon is concerned, was co-presenting with J.P. Pinard at the time in September 2013. We highlighted the veteran fracture engineer, Dr. Grafia from Cornell University, peer-reviewed health studies, and also economics research by independent analysts. And these pieces, they have been methodically amputated, cropped out of the report.
How do you mean, Peter? I'm not sure.
They're not in there. These are key pieces of evidence that people look at the world over, and they have been left out. To the point that even the report summarizes wrongly what we have said.
I think you mentioned this in our conversation Monday, but can you go over that again? You told the committee that the evidence is there, it should be banned, we don't need any more evidence, and they suggested that.
Well, one example is Dr. Grafia from Cornell University, who is a member of the Society of Petroleum Engineers as well, who have accumulated statistical data that show over a period of 10, 15, 20 years, you have a third and more of all oil and gas wells leaking. And the leakage rate is much higher than unconventional wells. The problem is bigger. So these pieces of evidence, so it's not a question of having good concrete liners, it's only a question of how much failure one gets. So the guaranteed failure degree is so high that there is a certainty there. And so one cannot sort of fool around that one and invent some language solution. In Graphia, such a well-spoken scientist who is so well evidence that he wouldn't be easy to ignore, but he was left out flat out. He was cut out flat out in the report. Even though he is number one critic from the field of petroleum engineering in the independent and critical science.
You presented his research.
We showed movie clips of him speaking, presented studies, presented paperwork, yes, and it was discussed and recognized in that presentation.
Where do you go from here? I mean, so everybody thinks, well, you know, we might have some time here. They've got to do all this work, all these studies, and all that sort of thing. And I gather that you're suggesting that they're going to embark on this research but eventually we're going to recommend fracking be allowed. Do you think they'll do all this research?
It's a talk and frack program.
Yes.
This is a method that is not done in other places. In Northeast British Columbia, consultations are still carried out, that they are sort of at a 25 or 15% build-out level already of the entire program. And they're still doing the community consultation in British Columbia, a 3-year program.
You're saying this is
Midstream, so it's what the BC Tap Water Alliance, who has been monitoring these procedures, they call it the frack and talk, or talk and frack methodology. And we see this already with the programs that are rolled out in Kootenay and Eagle Plains that involve technologies that are either directly production fracking, as the acid fracking proposed by EFLO, or the mini fracking of exploration by Northern Cross, which is in petroleum engineering, is always viewed as an introductory step to brute force fracking. It makes no sense in conventional oil and gas, and so this is where it's headed. So there's already, so these things are happening even before the report came out.
And next steps, ordinance.
Of course.
So Frack Free Yukon has been developing a strategy post, well, in fact it started to develop even while the Select Committee was in this consultation. Part of the Municipal Act of Yukon opens a door to groups of citizens putting forward petition to their municipal governments in order to eventually run a referendum. And Frack Free Yukon Alliance has developed an ordinance that we will be putting to the public as a petition, which would have for goal and effect to ban practices such as fracking and the use of LNG within the boundaries of the municipality that would adopt such an ordinance.
You are preparing that to bring that forward
Yes.
to the City Council?
Yes, and as you know, and it's mentioned in this brief here, that there's a petition that has been conducted by Yukoners concerned for the past few months that has gathered over 8,000 signatures. So that's a significant proportion of people in Yukon, and people who have signed on to this have asked the petition calls for a full and complete ban of fracking in Yukon. So you can tell that there's huge support for that, and that is one of the follow-up actions that Frack for Yukon
You ever taken an ordinance to city council and say, we would like to conduct a referendum?
Well, the petition first. You sign in the petition just as Karen Book lists around the whole program from A to Z under sections 155 and 156 of the Municipal Act. The petition forced the bylaw referendum. The referendum succeeded and therefore becomes law. At that point, it's not a decision by council anymore.
I thought they changed that.
No, they changed the threshold of votes. The Walmart petition failed by a few votes. Fenty government actually recognized this democratic government and lowered the threshold to 2,000 or 25% of the electorate, whichever is less. The general threshold across the board in the Yukon is 15% of the population. Now, 15. So now, which is higher than 25 of electorate. Now, with the act under review, this might or might not also happen for the Yukon, but with the support that we have, as Jean-François laid out, even 4,000 signatures would be achievable.
Okay, and so the plan is get a petition together to support a referendum, hold a referendum, ban fracking and LNG in the city of Waivers.
That's right.
That's a start.
And any of the municipalities in Yukon that fall under the municipal act.
You're not going to do it for each municipality.
No, each would have to do it.
Yep.
Each would have to do it.
Yep.
But if you were to
Yeah,
demonstrate
Yep.
clear resistance. in
Like if
Waivers,
there is a municipality in Yukon that demonstrates a clear support for a ban of fracking within their boundaries, I think that we would support that, and we would assist them in enacting an ordinance within their boundaries.
But of course, I mean, there's probably very well, I guess the Waivers trough is here.
Yeah.
But there's not a whole lot of likelihood that fracking is going to occur in any municipality anyway, so it's just
Whitehorse City Council sent a statement on the 22nd of April 2014 to the select committee, in which the mayor states, as representing council mayor, that until a well protection plan is in place, they would not want fracking to take place. So there are sort of caveats that are actually paper mache between even in terms of the city of Whitehorse.
I'm wondering if a referendum would be more of a symbolic achievement, where you say, look, the largest population center in the Yukon says no to fracking. That's what we've done.
Well, it's the big piece. It's obviously Whitehorse stands in Yukon as the largest by far community, and as you mentioned, it sits in the middle of the Whitehorse Whitehorse Trough, and covers I don't know how many square kilometers. The boundaries are huge.
Why is that?
But it's a question of, it's also a question of citizens demonstrating their commitment and demonstrating the power of democracy. So that's something that, we've lost a lot of our democratic power as citizens over without, it's been eroding bit by bit over the last several years. And it's time for the citizens to change that, to draw a line in the sand and say, We're taking our country back.
In terms of symbolic value, that's what that's basically, it's a powerful symbolic value that the 8,000 signatures represent. But if a law is passed, it actually has real teeth. It's more than symbolism at this point.
Yeah, the Northern Cross and Eagle Plains is a long way from the city of Lakers.
Yeah, but how far? But support, you know, the city of Whitehorse and other municipalities, just as First Nation settlement lands represent a small part of the territory, but they have bottleneck and key positions in infrastructure.
Oh, so so you think that this process, having gone through an extensive public consultation process, the committee comes back and recommends another pretty substantial round of research and discussion and that sort of thing. Do you think this fits right into the frack and talk?
Yes,
Cool.
exactly.
This is how they do it. This is how industry does it. Let's keep talking, and all the while we'll keep gearing up. You're suggesting while we're talking frack model at Northern Cross and EFLO.
Well, you have 97% of the people represented who clearly articulated that there should be a ban on fracking. The select committee had 6 people, 3 of which are, you know, you can pretty much assume are proponents of fracking.
There's no question it was done on.
The 4 points that were that never reached consensus are A, complete ban on fracking. So once you take that out of the equation, the rest is window dressing. They won't ban, they don't recommend that there be a ban on fracking. So where are we going? To fracking.
But it's a complex field of industrial technology, and it's surrounded by layers and layers of communication methods. And, there's a lot of false language involved that sort of allows to sort of do things under the radar screen and do things on the slide. And that's the standard procedure. I mean, the smoke screens, the unconventional oil and gas industry has specific arms that are not even attached to the conventional oil and gas industry. They have specific marketing contracts with Hill and Knowlton, Burson Marston, and the real heavyweights in the advertising, among the advertising agencies that come up with these language solutions and ideas, and even structure entire false community movements, such as Synergy Alberta. We've seen a fair amount of this kind of talk here in the Yukon as well, but we countered it effectively. So this is an elaborate, this idea of talk and frack is an actual elaborate operation. I think Synergy Alberta would be a good lead to say this is the model for talk and frack, for co-opting.
We're following the model.
That process, this report is aligned with these kind of ideas that have been carved out there under the Synergy Alberta model.
Can I add something about this way of the committee to describe Yukoners Concern PowerPoint presentation? Yukoners Concern gave the PowerPoint presentation in 2013, September, Peter said. But the way it's described on page 3, it is, they're saying that Yukoners Concern presented, I'm going to read, okay, I'm less nervous, okay, so you'll have a better idea. Okay, did not highlight the testimonies of several of the experts that presented before the committee. This recommendation, they're saying that Yukoners Concern presentation highlights the testimonies of the presenters, which is not true because the presenters at the Legislative Assembly were more like in 2014. So we're there like months before. And what we more highlighted, it was independent science from Grafia, Deborah Rogers, who's an economist that is saying that fracking is not the way to go because it's too costly. And different other ones like Sandra Sangraver and others, doctors that know that it's completely harmful for the health, and that a specialist too that knows that it's corrupting water, contamination water. The PowerPoint presentation of the Yukoners concern did not primarily, they're saying that it primarily focused on their concern of Yukon waters. So what this presentation was doing, we did cover air pollution, contamination, sand, okay, the problem with sand, with economics, with earthquake, with radioactivity, health concern, climate change, greenhouse emissions, social effect, land impact. We did cover all that in that PowerPoint presentation. So it's not well said to say that they just covered water, kind of, okay? And they did not note difficulties faced by other jurisdictions to regulate fracking. They more noted the impossibility of regulating fracking in other jurisdictions. So that is the best reason not to have it here, because no one else got it. So that's kind of what the studies are saying. No one else got it. Why would we, Yukoners, get it in the middle of nowhere where there's permafrost and everything? So
Alberta's got it.
Huh?
Alberta's got it. She's got it.
But the assessment.
But okay, that's about what I wanted to say, because like just in that paragraph, it gives kind of a lot of information that are not quite page 3, their description of Yukoners' concern presentation. So that gives us an idea of the rest of the report of all these others, and they also refuse to have some specialists that we wanted.
Suggesting the report's not an accurate reflection of what they heard.
Well, not that paragraph, okay? The other one can talk for themselves.
But the thing is, it shows, like, it's exactly, like, it brings some doubt that even the others, they got the same treatment. There's a lot of heft.
But there was already feedback also from the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers in the last place, and they essentially feel it's a pro-frack document. They see this as heading towards their goals.
CAPP said that?
Yeah.
What did they say?
Yeah, they went on the radio. And, they're saying it's a good report and it's a good thing to do some more studies, as they feel that this is heading in the right direction. So they had some verbiage, but in clear text, that pretty much says that what it's really saying is that the CAP feels it's a pro-frack report.
Yeah, I mean, like the three proponents that sat on the committee are also on the, within the party that is currently in government and who's making all the decisions regardless of what anybody says. So it's pretty clear that the report of the committee only retain the portions that go in the sense of, in the direction of doing.
Okay, do you guys take any comfort in the fact that they're recommending approval of First Nations be obtained before any fracking occurs?
That's an interesting one, Chuck, because of course it should receive the authorization of First Nations before it goes ahead. Of course it should, right? But what doesn't give and stated here, one of the things that makes us really uncomfortable is that they even have, like at one point within their discussions, did somebody say or hint to the fact that maybe they didn't have to? It's the law. Right. So somewhere in there, and the example, and we're not talking like Greenland here. We've got two situations that we've just gone through with the appeal process and with the with YESA, where the government that's in place right now is completely rejected
parts of the UFA, that is part of the law. So when you look at things like that included in the report, it makes you wonder, like, who out of that bunch of 6 came up to say, well, you know, like, we don't need to do the UFA. We don't need to respect the UFA.
And what is the legitimacy of saying, of reading in the report that First Nations should be listened to if they wanted, maybe UFAs are under attack. So a First Nation chief and council, they take the report and hand it to the lawyer to claim the right, or what's the process when the law is under attack?
Yeah.
What's the process?
I'm not sure I agree that the law says right now they need First Nation support.
No, the law says that the consultations are deep in terms of development on traditional territories, because in the umbrella final agreement, with a very small portion of the Yukon being settled, Class A and B settlement land, the trade that was highlighted by Thomas Berger and was basically accepted by the judge in the ruling is that the trade there was that the consultation is deep for land development, land use development in the territorial, in the traditional lands, far beyond the settlement.
Within the land use planning process.
Yeah, within the land use planning process.
Principle applies everywhere now.
No, it's within a land use planning, planning process. Yeah, but that's so. How can it be? Fracking can never be done in any legal way without land use planning, because it's not a spot development that happens anywhere like conventional drilling, which is sort of one of the confusions of this report. No clarity what actually constitutes unconventional oil and gas development, which is area rollout, large area rollout, with tens of thousands of wells, not spot development like could really have been. You have 2 wells, you have a reservoir. So how could there ever be a large-scale unconventional oil and gas development without land use planning, as it has tentacles and reach everywhere?
Just quickly then, both Northern Cross and EFLO have said the work they are conducting does not include fracking.
We've done a lot of flip-flopping. Certainly EFLO, until recently, clearly said that the focus is fracking, and then they flip-flop. Yes, they have stated several times. I mean, you just go back and hear in the media releases by EFLO, they were actually, other than Northern Cross, more outspoken in terms of saying we want the frack. They said that. They said that. And then they flipped it, and they came up with this elaborate scheme of the acid fracture, acid fracking, which is still fracking. So,
well,
so there's a lack of.
I seem to recall, but this is not, I don't want to get into a discussion with this, but
Sure.
I seem to recall in the correspondence on EFLO's application, yes, that it says right there on the public notice, this does not involve fracking. And they have correspondence with the Yukon government, EMR, that says this is not fracking.
Yeah, you can say that, but Sandy Johnson published in your paper a fairly thorough piece that actually showed in the mechanics of the application where the acid fracture actually is the process.
And it's a stepping stone to larger fracking.
It's a version of shale fracking.
And it's used at the beginning of a major fracking exercise.
It is, or it is the process. What the future will bring, I don't know, but it is the process that's laid out there.
I remember back when we were at the Legislative Assembly, and this guy from Peru was answering question. I had a question that was saying, when you do explore, do you use fracking? This question was asked, and it's in the record. And he said, yes, right away. When they're exploring, they use fracking.
But that doesn't mean they're using fracking here in the Yukon.
That was EFLO who was answering.
Right.
For EFLO down in...
And what are you asking them if they do exploration in the Yukon, are you using frack?
They're talking about the exploration in the Yukon. You know, like this the company, EFLO, that is right now in the Yukon. So they were saying that to explore, they need to frack. So it's kind of playing with the words a little bit because we have such a big ban on fracking with all the First Nation and everybody. So
But there's a fundamental confusion on the basic geology and petroleum engineering sides. You have conventional oil and gas drilling where it's like a straw in a drink. It goes into a reservoir, into highly permeable rock that actually has pressure, just like if a tire is, the valve is open. That's the basics. Now, and unconventional, you have micro bubbles that are contained, sealed with extremely slow permeability, sealed in the rock porosity. That distinction is not 100% clear, but it's 99% that you can. And this is what the largest body of geology that came on July 2012, Pedro and Robertson, a scoping study, covered more ground, more depth, more old and new research than anything that has been done in the Yukon Geological Survey. They are clear. There is no point. There is no proven conventional oil and gas.
in the Yukon.
There's no, it could be there, but there's nothing anybody can go to. So every activity now, if you just follow the geology that we know, that the Yukon Geological Survey knows, everything that's being done aims at unconventional development. Whether they're going to use petroleum jelly, acid, petroleum jelly as a frack fluid, acid fracking, it really doesn't matter much. It is unconventional, and in terms of shale geology and coalbed method, it is some form of fracking.
Yeah.
Okay, will you, how soon will you be bringing forward your ordinance to City Council?
Well, we have a meeting with Yukon Extension in 2 weeks, so we are kind of working on it. Yeah.
You guys are working on it together?
Yeah.
Sure.
It remains to be seen.
Yes.
I think it just wouldn't be fair to make determinations here.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
But that is the goal. I mean, that
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
it's in the works.
yeah.
Okay, I think that's all I need, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pretty dynamic week, eh? There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Oh, ouais. Ils sont aujourd'hui dans le
How long do you think it'll take to respond to the report?
Ask for which entity? For whom?
The yukon party to respond to the report, the government.
Oh, the government. That's it. Well, that's a good one. What do you think? I have no idea. But this is sort of part of the. But they had a say on the scope and on the name of the committee, which is so leading to call it on the risks and benefits. That name already is so biased that it actually says a lot about what the intentions of the government. It didn't say harms and you know.
Right.
It's so you have this is powerful. This is really.
Okay, then that's beaucoup.
Okay.
Bye-bye.